Okay, I'm gonna get over here. I had to write a little opening speech because I couldn't remember it. I'd like to thank you all for coming out today, each and every one of you. At 74, this is the most humbling situation I have ever been in. I would like to thank Mr. Walt Taylor and a few brave souls for starting the AFA and all the people that have kept it going for the past 50 years. Thanks to Henry Heimerling for starting the AFJ, where I learned about the AFA. This put me on the road to meeting many awesome farriers from whom I have learned so much. I attended my first AFA convention in Fresno in 1979. I've traveled coast to coast to gain more knowledge. I quit keeping track of expenses when I spent over $20,000 going to clinics and seminars. I can't thank the AFA enough for all they did for my career as a farrier. Unlike today where you have a wealth of information at your fingertips by using the internet. Last but not least, I would like to thank Mr. Pat Burton and Mr. John Johnson for giving me the opportunity to speak today. 90% of what I tell you, I learned from other farriers, most of whom are no longer with us. The other 10% I tell you is my opinion. Take that with a grain of salt, mix it with your ideas, and form your own opinion. Only a fool won't change their mind. So with that, we're going to start with a blast from the past. I think I'm pretty sure I had the first laptop in the entire state of Iowa. Whoops. Right there it is, a recipe card box. I kept all my records in that for 46 years. Anytime I handmade a shoe, right down the length of the steel and the width of the foot, if I lost a shoe, I could go there and make a shoe and go. Okay, I'm going to tell some stories along the way. This guy was a novice horse owner, and I called up his brother-in-law, who was a really good horseman. Said, my horse is limping. Could you come over and check him? So he went over and said, yeah, your horse got thrush. What do you do for thrush? His answer was, put a little bleach on the foot twice a day. Well, if a little bit is good, a lot is great. He poured 3 gallons over top of the hoof in a 5-day period. And I think he got the thrush. Okay, we've been kicking thrush around forever, you know, we talked about it and you know all about it. But you're shoeing a horse and you say to the owner, your horse got thrush. What caused that? Mother manure. This is a quote from the late Bernie Chapman. Horses in the West Texas feedlots stand in cow manure 24/7, 365 days a year. If trimmed and shod properly, they don't get thrush. So how can this be? Well, generally you have a medial lateral imbalance in your hoof capsule, and it cracks up through the central sulcus of your horny frog and exposes your sensitive frog. But here's the kicker. What do we all do? We squirt stuff on it. That don't work. Any bacteria there is, the only way to kill it is to remove it. So have the horse owner take a hot soapy brush, hot water with soap and a soft bristle brush, and scrub. Get that bacteria out of there, trim the horse in balance, stand them on cement, let them air dry, and then if you must treat them with Thrush X, Copper Tox, or whatever, you can go ahead and do it. But until you get that foot in balance, you're gonna, and don't get the bacteria out of there, you're gonna have thrush. Okay, this is I have hardly any pictures of my work because when they called me 3 years ago, I was all done shoeing, my van was broken down and was done. But I did actually trim this horse for 10 years, and you can see that the medial heel is always long, and then diagonally from there, you get a flare. Now, I haven't trimmed that flare back into balance again, but every time 3 feet were perfect. This foot was always out of balance. It was the off front. Sometimes it had thrush, sometimes it didn't. I never did tell a lady. It was in a dry environment. It never got juicy. So she's the kind of woman, if I told her horse had thrush, she would go, whoa. So I never did tell her. And Kevin doesn't either. Okay, so anyways, contracted heels. Why do horses get contracted heels? Because they're not using the back third of the foot. Do too many things. Horse owner not doing them often enough, shoeing them too short. They're not coming in flat or heel first. Slowly that heel contracts. And then you end up with navicular issues, as you all know. So anyways, to check this out, have the horse owner walk the horse on cement. And close your eyes. The horse, you see the horse has the hitting flat or heel first. You close your eyes. You hear this little skip. And that's the toe hitting first. What's that horse telling you? I have some inflammation in the navicular bursa at the least. Extra stress in the suspensories. And that's why I'm hitting toe first. I need some help. A long time ago, early on, an old cow vet, pig vet, he knew little about horses' feet and I knew less. I asked him one day, I got a few horses that are kind of choppy and they're trip a little bit. Got any ideas to help me? He said, well, I don't really know, but maybe a size bigger shoe and a rolled toe couldn't hurt anything. I got to thinking, that's kind of like putting on your seatbelt after you wrecked your car. Why don't we do that before they go lame? So anyways, that's my story on contracted heels. I guess that's all I got on that. So anyways, it's my theory. And also, if you ever notice, every shoe you take off a horse at 6 weeks has a rolled toe. And just think of the stress you're putting in the suspensories for them to wear that steel away. And then you just get it where it's feeling good, and what do? Throw it away and make them do it all over again. And that's just my theory. This is what adds to our internal hoof problems, basically around the navicular bone. Okay, here's a shoe of choice 40 years ago. The bad part was if you fit just to the end of the heel, these shoes were tapered, you lost a 1/4 inch of support. Is a 1/4 inch of support a lot? I think it is. I know it is. Okay, here's a used shoe I borrowed from a farrier. You can see how that horse in 7 weeks made himself a nice roll. And then guess what? He gets to do it all over again. So anyways, I'm a egg bar rolled toe nut. Big time. Okay, St. Croix's got a light rim shoe. It's already got a rolled toe built into it. This horse had some problems. You can see it's got contracted heels. It's not using the back third of his foot. But I also take my grinder and grind it on farther back to help the horse get over. Then when I inherited every cripple for miles around. If I got a pleasure horse in that had navicular issues, my choice of shoe was KB egg bars. If you ever notice ahead of your aluminum shoes, right ahead of the wear plate, it's just zoom, broke, they want to get over. So I take out the wear plate, rivet in 2 nails so dirt wouldn't pack in there, square the toe up and hammer roll it back a 1/2 inch, thinking that's really helping. A lot of people don't like egg bars. Early on, I'll admit they were a bugger because they filled up with mud and manure and they're hard to clean. So some people don't like egg bars. So what I would do is I take a size bigger shoe, extend the heels like you do on a back shoe, because any shoe that goes over the frog does you no good whatsoever. That comes from Mr. Bruce Daniels. So I kick trailer straight back, spoon them just a little bit, and where you see the white line, that's where the foot would stop. So by doing this, I picked up over 1/4 inch posterior support, And they all got a rolled toe. I rolled the toes on 99% of every horse I shod for the last 40 plus years, on every horse in front. Okay, then I got this harebrained idea. I always got harebrained ideas. I got some wide web aluminum, thinking that by making this big wide toe, I can move the breakover point back 1.25 inches. Really help this horse. Then I went to a Mike Wildenstein clinic, and while I was up getting a cup of coffee and fighting over the last donut, he explained something, and I got back, and Scotty Keller, my friend right here, told me what he said. He said a wide web toe actually holds your horse up on top of the ground. It's actually harder for him to get up and over. He recommended a narrow toe. I thought, that makes perfectly good sense. So then I went with my 8 bars with a narrow toe and also a roll. Okay, heart bars. How many of you can make a pair of heart bars on the job site and fit perfect every time? Well, I can't either. So I come up with a better way. I make my shoes in this next segment, I say 12.5 inches by 5/16 by 3/4. But I failed to mention that I cut them from 12 inches to 15.5 inches in half-inch increments and make pairs, and I just hang them on the rack. Well, I'll explain that in the video. But here, I took the shoe, go to the horse. Like I say, I was down at this time, there's no horse there. You mark where your frog is pointing, you mark where you want your frog plate to stop. Take the shoe back to the angle and you center punch at it, because you're going to lose your marks when you jump your heart bar in. I gotta get this guy to talk. Rubber shoes ahead of time. I start at 12.5 inches by 5/16 by 3/4. They're creased, roll toe. They're concaved here with a grinder, so you don't have sole pressure. Then I set down this part for the frog plate to sit in. Just put it down there, pop it, turn it around, put it there, pop it. Your frog plate will sit in there. I make my frog plates out 1 inch by 1/4. I start out at 2 5/8 inches, and I make them in 1/8 inch increments all the way up to 2 7/8. And I make pairs. And then I have a box I throw them in and get to the horse, get the shoe that fits, shape it a little bit, get the heart bar that fits on the box, and jump it in. Okay. Okay, I used to make my frog plates when I was 50, 1 heat. And when they got to be 60, 2 heats. And I turned 70, 3 heats. Basically all I'm doing is making a frog plate. It's really elementary. But you're actually stacking up the steel. Most of your frogs run downhill. So that helps fit better. Early on, when we were doing heart bars, we just had the point of the frog plate touching the frog. Now we realize we want the whole frog plate touching the whole frog. You can't do it by forging. You use metal pressure material, pack, whatever you got. You want the whole frog touching the frog's set down, that'll fit in my shoe. It'll be a bright, nice, level across. It'll be coming over hammer here, right? I had actually forged for 4 years for this video. I'm getting to be an old weenie. Okay. Now, if you're just a keg shoer, there's nothing wrong with being a keg shoer. I was a keg shoer for years, but this is how you would put a frog plate in a keg shoe. Okay, if you're not forge welding, making your bar shoes yet, and your keg shoeing, this is the way I used to make all my bar shoes. I had a acetylene torch, and I would set down the ends on the end of the anvil like that, and then take a piece of 3/4 by 1/4 and acetylene weld it in. This shoe is ready to have the frog plate put in it. It's got a roll toe. It's also a rocker. Okay, I'm going to take 3 1/4 inch, 1/4 by 3/4. I split it, and that's going to spread out and go in between here. Okay, got a little grinding, and that'll sit in there, and you'll have to either stick weld it or acetylene weld it, because you're not going to jump that much in there. So that's how I make them for keg shoes. Okay, this is, I got to making all my shoes and jumping in the frog plates. This was the jig I made to hold the shoe in place when I was jumping it in. There's a picture of it. Forget that. Okay, now I'm going to attempt to jump this frog plate into this shoe. I haven't did this for 4 years, so it should be interesting. Bob Shantz from St. Louis came up to Des Moines, John Urick's shop in the snowstorm, and did demos. And on that day, I learned the secret to forge welding. You don't put your flux on until it's at welding heat. I've used nothing but borax since 1992, and I haven't missed one weld. Now you know what's going to happen today. blow your horn about something, within a day or two, the Lord knocks you right back down to your knees. Happens every time here I open my big mouth and I do better. Nothing but borax. It's cheap. I'm kind of a cheap person. I've seen where people say you got to dry it out in the stove and do this and do that. I never did. Throw it around my truck. I'd have to break it loose in a piece of water. You can get by with 2 wells, but 3 is better. I guess I've never had one break yet. Not wood. Okay, early on whenever we heart-barred a horse, we did hoof resections. This is a 4-year-old Belgian mare that foundered, went to the vet clinic, foundered bad. They recommend put her down or call Ray. Well, she ended up in my shop, and here I am doing a hoof resection. But we found out it didn't take us too long to figure out. The idea of the hoof resection was you're putting pressure with a frog support against your frog, which pushes pressure on the coffin bone that's usually rotated. You end up, the quarters pooch. So after we quit doing this, if they had bony column rotation, the most we ever did was if the coronary plexus was jammed, we would do a coronary groove, and I have no pictures of that. Here's an 8-bar heart bar I put on her. The heart bar looks a little weeny, but it actually lasted 10 months. And in 10 months, I had one foot that was perfect, but the other one, the coffin bone, got infected. I put a hospital plate on this mare. These old boys, one was 80, one was 56. They put her in stocks every 3 days and soaked her and treated her, put her back together. But at 10 months, the one coffin bone got infected bad, and they opted to put her down. Here she is, ready to go home. I shot her every 6-7 weeks. I did all this, and when I did corrective work, if I wasn't successful, I didn't charge. Not good for the bank account, but good for business. I didn't get hollered at very often. Okay, here's a Clyde that had crushed heels, and he's also a bony column and sunk. The picture on the bottom is pretty blurry, but you can see I got an adequate heart bar on this horse. She showed the horse for 2 years, never took a bad step ever. And she sold him, we jerked the shoes. All of my corrective shoes, 15 years ago, I packed them up and sent them down to Chris Gregory's school to hang on the wall, along with notebooks on what they were used for, and this was one of them. Because I knew my son-in-law from Chicago someday, when I kicked the bucket, would put them all in the scrap pile. So if you ever get down by Chris's, they're hanging down there. Okay, it's a cold day. Your forge is cold, your animal's cold, you need a bar shoe. Try 3 times and it won't stick. What are you going to do? You're going to braze it, work to braze it. So I can tell you one thing, brazing is really hard. Hi, Jared. It's really hard on your liner. I recommend you getting a 3/8" piece of stainless steel, slide it in there first, and then do your brazing. Then you won't screw up your liner. Got a little bit too much video on this deal, but my person taking the video didn't know that. Okay, how do you braze it? You got to have a 1973 or older penny. After 73, they don't have enough copper in them. They won't stick anywhere. See somebody with the penny on, give her the more treatment. Back the fire. But if you see somebody tearing down an old house, got wiring in that old house, solid copper wire, and it will work every time. The 1973 penny or older works every time. The thing is, by getting all the ridges in our forge, you got to hold the level of that copper when you're going all over the place. And you can see I keep switching hands. It's kind of warm. You don't beat on it like you do a motor shoe. I'll show you what you do. When that penny melts, it will flow into your spark. Put it on the anvil, cool it just a bit. Hit her in a pail of water, bring her off, and then you can take a thin brush and knock the excess copper off of the shoe. I've did several demos over the years with this, and 9 times out of 10, I can beat that shoe square and it won't break. That's how tough that copper is. So that's just another way to skin a cat. You can see there where the copper run through. I got the shoe up here. Okay, quarter cracks. This is not my shoeing. I don't know where I got this picture. But you can see the horse is shod short, got a wedge heel, quarter crack started. My theory, anytime you wedge a horse, you need some kind of frog support, either mechanically or artificially. But anyways, this horse is fixing to blow a quarter crack. Here's another one. I don't know who it is. I don't wear a watch. But that medial heel is sheared really bad and going to blow a quarter crack. I had 1 quarter crack in 46 years. It was about the 5th year I shod. The guy called me an American saddlebred the shoe. He wanted a 16-ounce toe-weighted shoe, a leather, and a wedge. I had never shod one, so I called Centaur Forge and got the late Scott Simpson's little paperback book, How to Shoe the American Saddlebred. I read it cover to cover, went out the shop, made a shoe, got my leather and wedge, and went and shod the horse, and things went really good. I was really happy. Well, 2 or 3 weeks later, I can't remember, so long ago, guy called up and the horse blew a quarter crack. So then I was a hero. I went and took my little copper plate, my little brass screws, and patched the crack. Now why did that horse blow a quarter crack? 1, I probably had too short a shoe on. 2, I probably had a medial elbow imbalance. 3, I could have had too much wedge. More than likely I had all 3 because I didn't know what I was doing. But anyways, I do not stitch, I do not Dremel, I do not use acrylics to fix quarter cracks. And this next one is an injury. I don't know where I got it, but this is how I would fix a quarter crack. I draw a clip ahead of the crack, I float the crack, put on an 8-bar heart bar to support the frog, and make sure that hoof wall is a 1/4 inch from touching the shoe. Sometimes you have to grind away some shoe to get that. You don't want the hoof wall touching the shoe. And I give the horse owner a hacksaw blade, and I said, if that wall gets anywhere near that shoe, you cut it out of there. If you can't do it, call me and I'll stop and do it. And that new hoof will come out flawless every time, and very simple. Okay, I shot 3 horses for this lady, and 2 days later we got a big ice storm. She called up and said, my horses can't get to the water tank, they're all falling down. What do you do? 40 years ago, this is what we did. Made borium nails. Put your nails in a vise, get a acetylene torch with a number 3 tip, hold it at a 45, you got your borium rod, you're welding borium onto the one nail head while you're pointing towards the next one, heating that up as you go, and you can go right down through there and get yourself a bunch of borium nails. Then I went to the lady's place, instead of having to take off all the shoes and put on drill tack or something, you pull 4 nails, put 4 nails in, and they'll trot on ice. Bad thing is, don't use your favorite driving hammer because it will eat them up. You can see on my hand on the right there, them puppies are nasty. Now they say you can buy borium nails now, but I wonder if they're this bad or they work, or I don't know. I'm out of the loop, so. But I'm going to find one before I leave here. See what it looks like. Okay, how many are tapping their shoe for a hospital plate and the tap breaks up? Anybody ever had that happen? Well, that's a pain in the butt getting that puppy out, ain't it? Well, after twice, we got to do something different. So I went and found me a 1/4 inch self-tapping screw, a 1/2 inch long. Had a hex head and a slot, so the owner could take a wrench and take it out with a screwdriver. Okay, then I drill 3 holes in my shoe, 7/32. And then I always drilled a 1/4 inch hole in the plate so you have a little room for leeway. Put a drop of oil in the hole, had it in the foot vise. Take my drill and I had a socket rigged up on it. Right in. Excuse me. 1/16 of an inch come out the other side. All you do is take it to the grinder, grind it off, back it out. Works good as ever. I always put a roll tool on these two so you don't get grass caught underneath the hospital plate. Excuse me. Okay, so early on we used oakum to pack under pads and stuff. Hated that stuff. You come back, it'd either be gone or balled up in there, be full of dirt. Not good. So I come up with a better idea. I get some 3M glue, 1 inch foam. If you're just putting on regular pads, I use that also, or just a hospital plate, and glue it on there. Put it on the horse and you can come back in 6 weeks, treat it with pine tar or Cerdon, whatever you do. Come back in 6 weeks, and not 1 drop of dirt gets underneath there. Cheap, easy, and it works. Okay, this story. This is a yearling stud colt. In April, he was knuckling ahead in his fetlocks. The neighbor lady said, kick him out on pasture with the rest of the horses, and they'll chase him around and he'll get all better. She went and gathered him up in August, and the near front was good. The left front was locked solid. You could put your foot against it and could not move it. Now, I don't know if you can see it. I don't have a beamer deal. But they took it to the vet clinic, and they cut the inferior check ligament. That didn't have anything to do with this. So they took him back a week later, cut the main suspensory ligament. That didn't have anything to do with this problem. So they said, you might as well put him down or call Ray. So now he's back in my shop. He's wrapped up in PCB pipe and all kinds of wraps and stuff. Okay, so I made a shoe 5/8 by 3/4, 5/8 by 1/4, side clipped, extended heels, turned 90 degrees with holes drilled in it. Then I made a brace to attach that to. Up at the top, I had a bicycle inner tube filled with foam, and then I stapled the end shut. Then I got a piece of leather, glued 1 inch foam on that, put 4 slits in that. Rolled the wife, or stole the wife's shoulder strap off her weed eater and fastened that to my brace to try to pull that back. Well, she's still looking for her shoulder strap. Anyways, I kept the horse in my barn for a week, had him on butte, and he laid down an awfully lot. He was hurting. At that time, I told him to come get him and let them treat him. After a month, he called up and said, "It's not doing any good. Got big pressure sores. Would you please put him down for me and I'll pay for it?" I said, "Fine, bring him to my barn." So now, I get to do what I think's right. I called my ace in the hole, Dr. Phil Edler, International DVM Hall of Famer, and I said, "I need some minor surgery done." He said, "What's that?" I said, "Cut the superficial flexor tendon." He cut it, and that fetlock dropped right back into place. I got in a lady vet with a portable x-ray machine and x-rayed it. Had a little luxation between P1 and P2, but didn't hurt him a bit. So the guy calls about this time, "How much do I owe you for putting smoke in the ground?" I said, "Why don't you hook on your horse trailer and come on over? Smoke would like to go home with you." Well, here they are, getting ready to go home. They was pretty tickled. Give you an idea how old this picture is? Those two little girls are married and have kids. Makes me pretty old. Here's Smoke as a 2-year-old. They gelded him, trailed him. He was running with the wind, never had a problem. That's that story. Okay, I got a call. A 4-year-old Percheron went flying out of a horse trailer backwards and cut the deep flexor in half on a steel evener on a wagon tongue. I was 30 miles from the horse, so I made a shoe in the shop. I shot enough draft horses knew I could fit it pretty close. Then I welded a pipe under it to fit my brace on. You can see down in the bottom of the left there, Doc just cut off a chunk of the deep flexor. So then on the job site, I made a brace out of 1/2-inch round rod. Up at the top, I had heater hose, split that, got that on there, put foam on that, and then pet wrap on that. Turn it the other way, I had a car air tube, cut her down, and that's to bring the fetlock back up into the place, because it was sagging. Here's the finished job. Doc had rewrapped it, got the brace on and everything, pulled the fetlock up into place, and got a hang strap at the top to hold it there. So every 3 days, the guy could take that hang strap loose, excuse me, and that would flop down to the ground, the brace. He could retreat it, rewrap it, bring it back up into place, and fasten the hang strap. The horse always had a slight limp. He never pulled a plow again, but he was in lots of parades pulling a wagon. Oh, gee whiz. Okay, toe cracks. Aren't those is lovely? Well, a long time ago, early on, 40-some years ago, when we seen a toe crack, we'd rasp across it. Did no good. Then I went to a clinic, and this guy had this little iron. It was about 1 foot long, 1/2 inch wide. He had it sharpened, and he'd get it really hot, and he'd burn across the crack. Then he'd burn this diamond, and then he'd burn across the bottom. He said, "It fixes them every time." I went home, it didn't fix nothing. He was a liar. So anyways, I go to a Bernie Chapman clinic. Bernie Chapman, man, I wish he was my dad. Anyways, he explained the reason horses get toe cracks is the deep flexor is too tight. We all know the deep flexor comes down the back over the navicular bone, hooks on the bottom of the coffin bone. I can still remember him explaining that tight, deep flexor, it vibrates the coffin bone and pops the hoof capsule open like a peanut shell. So anyways, I get a call, this horse got cracks. They just bought her, one-eyed paint mare, 11 years old. She didn't have 1 crack, she had 6. Anyways, they said, "We can't start right away, you can't pick up her front feet, the vet's on the way." I thought, oh boy. Anyways, he come, give her 1/2 cc of Dolmosedan, and I went to work on her. I put on 8-bar, heart bar, side clips, and a rocker toe. After I trimmed the horse in balance, you can see it right there. The coffin bone is rotated slightly. She has CD2 also, and too much heel. There again, you trim them into balance. It's very important. So anyways, you're probably wondering, I had a camera that day, I got a picture why I didn't take a picture of my shoe job. Excuse me. 46 years, it had to be the ugliest shoe job I had ever done. Both pant legs were torn. I was bleeding out of my arm really bad. She turned me every which way but loose. So anyways, he said, when do you go to a resetter? I said, usually I like to do it 5 to 6 weeks. I said, when the shoe comes loose, give me a call. Finally got a call. I got out my laptop recipe box. She'd been shod for 8 months. I drives up there, took a picture of her feet, pulled the other shoe, trimmed her, and got the heck out of there. Never went back. You know, I'm going to get a little smarter with age, not a lot, but a little. So anyways, toe cracks, and there again, I didn't Dremel, I didn't use acrylics, I didn't stitch, nothing. And Jeff Schmuck isn't here, but he sent one over. There's a good 1/4 inch crack top to bottom, a big paint stud. Blood was running out of it, and I shod that horse the same way with heart bars, and he is all intact. At about 9 months, had a solid foot. This was in the 80s. Went to Montana for $38,000. That's peanuts now. Buy a trail ride horse for that now, but back then that was pretty good money. Okay, shot a lot of grass. Put them in stocks, the nasty ones, fought with the other ones. But you can see this horse is just a little logy. Dermosadan just came out. Man, was that nice. So anyways, I got 1 down, 23 to go, all handmaids. Here's the whole hitch in the parade. Next day I didn't put on them big globby shoes. I put on shoes that fit. Like on these, I just put 1.25 by half, no clips. But anyways, about this time, the boss, he's in my book twice, called up and said, hey, I don't like the drug you're giving my horses. They don't move good for a week. I said, yeah, but Bill, I move so much better the next day, I really don't care. And guess what? I got fired. So anyways, I got something for you to ponder. You'll probably know the answer before you get to the door with your smartphones. But not too many people know about this. Veterinarians don't even know about this hardly. Doug Russo knows about it because I just told him. It's called Lampas, Lampas. If they got Lampas really bad, a lot of them get nervous and they rub their tail out. Everybody's worming them and everything else. It's not the problem. So you can come up and talk to me about it, or you can look on your smartphones and try to figure it out. But I wanted to come up. I'm sure somebody out here hasn't learned one thing, so I had to throw this in. So anyways, I'd like to thank you all for your attentiveness today. It's been an honor to speak to you on the 50th anniversary of the AFA. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it.